Hey, Taco Tuesday fans, this is Christian Brindle.
And I am Glenn Shelton.
We came together and combined our forces to create something special for insurance agents called Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services,
and my company, Lead Heroes,
is here to bring you the latest and greatest news happening in the insurance industry today and eat some tacos while we do it.
If you enjoy the content that we put out on this podcast, feel free to leave us a review or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
Without further ado, let's get into this episode of Taco Tuesday. Recording.
Almost missed it. Welcome to Taco Tuesday, you guys. Special episode today in Medicare Gurus. Normally, we're live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard, 6 p.m. Eastern Time in the Six-Figure Medicare Agent group. Today, we're in the Medicare Gurus Facebook group. We wanted to have Justin Brock on today's episode as our special guest. Unfortunately, he is unavailable. Obviously understandable. Very busy guy. But we're moving forward with today's episode, and yeah, super excited to be live in the Gurus group. What's up? Drop a comment below. A lot of times we will bring you in. We will mention your comment. We will talk about your thoughts and questions in the episode. So if you have something to say, you have a question, you think my Taco Tuesday shirt's better than Christian's, obviously understandable. Black beats green all day. So yeah, Christian, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. It's unusual. You ever get like a weird feeling when like you go on a trip and you spend the night in someone else's house and it's not your house? You know, like you get like this feeling. It's like, okay, this isn't my bed. This isn't my shower kind of thing. That's how I feel right now in this group. That's how I feel right now.
That's understandable. You know, my wife gets that way more than I do. I can like go into an Airbnb, you know, and I can crash out like it's my house, but my wife like can't sleep unless it's, you know, our bed.
So Justin's coming on.
Oh,
he said, just for a minute.
Just for a minute. Hey, we'll take every minute we can get.
And then Tony Merwin might come on later.
We'll see. We'll see if we let Tony. We will see if we let you on, Tony. Well, you know, we had several different topics. I think one of the ones I was most excited to talk about today, you guys, there's also something that happened today that really fired me up with an agent that I really, really, really want to talk about because I feel like it's important. Like, I feel like it's something that you guys need to be aware of. So maybe while Christian's working on his
my technical prowess.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, so let's talk about this agent.
Let's talk about this agent first, because again, this was something that fired me up today. So I get a call from an agent, and this isn't something new. This is something that's kind of reoccurring. But when I'm talking to an agent, they want to buy leads in their local area. But then they're also talking about buying leads out of their local area and selling over the phone. And they kind of have their foot in both places. Like, oh, well, yeah, I think I'm going to do telesales, but I also want to buy leads. And so like the first red flag for me, I'm holding my imaginary red flag here, you guys, is why are you buying? If you're truly selling over the phone, why wouldn't you optimize for targeting telesales? Shouldn't you optimize for telesales? Why would you buy leads locally? The biggest advantage, in my opinion, of selling over the phone, of the telesales model, is targeting better areas. And this agent specifically was in LA County, which is probably one of the worst counties in the United States of America to market insurance to. And I'm telling her this point blank. And, she just really wanted to move forward. Like, she felt like she could do any of it. Oh, well, I can sell over the phone. I can sell locally. I can buy leads locally, sell over the phone. I just I'm like, listen, I'm sure you can sell over the phone. It sounds like you've been selling insurance for a long time, but if you're not optimized for it, if you're not systematically approaching it, you have a CRM, you know, you have a follow-up process, email templates, you know, then she was worried about drop off, right? Policies being canceled. And I'm like, again, this is part of telesales. Like, you need to have a retention plan in place. And it drives me nuts. If there's anything I could share with you guys, don't try to put your foot in both places. If you want to sell over the phone, target selling over the phone, plan for it, set up for it, talk to other telesales agents about it, optimize for it, and go crush it. If you want to sell in your local market, sell in your local market, meet people face to face when you can. Maybe you're doing some telesales locally, but don't try to do both, because that's the recipe for failure. Time and time again, I've seen agents fail who try to do both. So that was kind of something that I wanted to get off my chest. But I am curious, Christian, what do you think about that?
Well, I love your stories with agents, because I feel like you deal with, like, I feel like sometimes I deal with a lot of agents, but then like then I'm humbled when we get on and talk about this stuff. So I'm like, my God, sometimes some of these stories I hear from you, my thought process is, I definitely think it. I think it is with anything, right? I think if you're going to get really good at something, you have to pick to something and commit to it, right? Like, when I was first starting, I did everything face to face, and I got really good at face to face. But then when it came to doing things over the phone, at first I struggled, and because I didn't have everything in place to actually know what I was doing. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said there, because I think they're two very different arenas, right? And so there's preparation in place, systems in place, just kind of like a whole mentality of way of doing things about it. I think it does benefit you to kind of, plant your flag in the ground and sit with it.
Yeah. And then I mentioned CRM specifically, and I was like, yeah, there's certain groups. And I told her, I'm like, I would be happy to recommend someone to you who all they do is telesales. If that's the direction you want to go, let me connect you with someone, this, and they have the technology in place. They can, again, I'm looking at it like I'm trying to help you as an agent shortcut from your selling face to face to selling over the phone exclusively. And her response was, I can set up a CRM in like a day. Like, why would I contract with some? And I'm like, no. I'm like, there are people who have proprietary technology in place. Not like, I don't know. It was like talking to a brick wall. I felt like I really did. Like, I don't know. And maybe she had been screwed over before by uplines or something, you never know the whole story. So I guess to play devil's advocate a bit with this agent, maybe there's more there than I know, but that was just one of those like common fit. We talk about it here on the show all the time, is like what separates agents who succeed from failing. And this is one of those like really common things that I see, like agents who they're like, oh, I'm going to sell life and health and PNC. Oh, I'm going to sell over the phone and face to face. It's like, just pick your lane, guys, and go.
Do something. Yeah.
Yeah. Do something. Do something. Amen. That's seriously it.
I'm texting Tony back. So Tony said that he can come on in about 15 minutes or so.
Cool. The other topic that we had talked about with Justin going through that I would love to get into, especially here in the Medicare Gurus Facebook group, is Medicare Advantage versus subs. And
yes,
there's some stuff that happened Sunday here in the group. Someone posted about, again, kind of subs versus Medicare Advantage. Some of you may have seen that post. And it's kind of this time-old tale. Like, I think the conversation evolves over time. I think Medicare Advantage has evolved a lot. But I think the conversation, like, it's like saying an SUV is always better than a compact car. there's situations where a compact car is great and might even be a better solution than an SUV. But then there's other situations where, man, if only you had an SUV, you could have gotten from point A to B. So I think there's reasons for both, but I would be curious to know your thoughts, Christian, about kind of Medicare Advantage versus Medicare Supplement. And, if you're talking to a client, maybe you're looking at it from your agency, but yeah, tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so Med Sup versus Medicare Advantage, I mean, it's the age-old question. I mean, there are certainly groups out there that their whole business model is around demonizing Medicare Advantage and only selling Med Sup, right? And then there's the flip side of that. There's business models that do the exact same thing, but they're trying to demonize Med Sup and trying to sell Medicare Advantage. It's hard to know for not only, I mean, the clients are confused as hell, right? Like because of that, because there's such different voices, but the agents get confused too in the crossfire. And this is my approach to it. I mean, they're very different. They're like apples and oranges. They both have positives and negatives to them. And depending on the situation, I think if you're selling Medicare and that's a big part of what you do, or if it's your specialty, you should sell both. And we sell both. And we have the approach that, like when I'm working with a new client, let's say someone that's turned 65, like I just met with someone this morning. My calendar got wiped out. I didn't know she was coming. I completely forgot. But she showed up. And the referral, someone turned 65. I took time and I sat down with her and I basically mapped out. I'm like, okay, this is Med Sup. This is how it works. This is what you'd be paying in this area. This is the pros and cons, the way I see it. Here's Medicare Advantage, same thing. Pros and cons, the way I see it. And I break it down that way when someone's turned 65. I try to show them from an unbiased perspective because I don't think every situation is exactly the same. I think, and people have different preferences, needs, all that stuff. I think that they're really apples and oranges, and it just depends which one kind of guy you are, an apple guy or an orange guy. But sell both.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on that you said there is the fact, and to kind of go back to our conversation from a couple of weeks ago with Scotty, there are people who in the social media space, on their websites, personal conversations where they literally are trying to pump themselves up by demonizing one or the other. So yeah, definitely something to consider, you guys. Be careful what you're reading, and you have to understand that whatever that person is saying, that there could be financial motivation behind what they're saying. That is something that personally happened to me when I got my life and health license about a decade ago. Everyone told me that there was no money in Medicare, right? And Christian, we also forgot too. I'm sitting here. I know we were so lost in Justin Brock ditching us today. I didn't talk about my taco today, guys.
Ooh.
This is a tostada.
Okay.
So this is a taco, guys. There's a hard shell here. There's some refried beans, lettuce, beef, cheese, sour cream. It's the dream. It really is. I already had one before we even went live, and I'm probably going to have to eat another one right now. So Christian, keep talking so I can just chow in front of.
All right. I'll let you stuff your face like always. No, I'm just kidding. I think Cameron's right on the money. Cameron's like only sell PDPs because that's where the money is. No. I mean, that's an interesting conversation as well. Cause like, there's a lot of shops that do Med Sup and Med Sup only. I've seen more and more of these shops, by the way, including like a certain agent in South Carolina, that demonized Medicare Advantage for years. And now they sell it in their office. I'm not going to say any names. I don't even know if he's in here. This isn't my group. I'm not as familiar with.
You're back to the. This isn't my house.
This is not comfortable. Yeah, this is very uncomfortable. Like, am I okay to sleep naked in their bed? I can sleep in my bed, but
don't sleep naked in the stranger's bed.
but no, like it's one of those things that like there's been groups I've seen before that like they're just so against doing AHIP, doing certifications or any of that. Like they'll just have clients sign up their own PDPs. They'll do all the work to locate the PDP, and then they'll be like, okay, here's how you sign up for it on your own direct. Like they won't even write it because they're just so against doing AHIP certifications or doing anything that has to do with Medicare Advantage or PDPs or anything like that. I think that's becoming less and less of a viable way of doing business. Just my personal opinion. I think the groups and the agencies that are not only able to do both, but are willing to do both. I think, I think there's something to that. I think you're just, more of a viable resource for your clients because like so many people buy Medicare Advantage these days. Like we might not like it as agents and some of you might love it as agents. It just depends on who you are. But like, I would rather sell a Med Sup than a Medicare Advantage plan all day, every day. But my office sells 70% Medicare Advantage. Like, it's not that we want it that way. It's that we really try to approach it from an unbiased perspective. And that just seems to be more of where our crowd leans to. It's definitely interesting, but I think it's just becoming more and more of a need to sell both.
Yeah. So a few things on that. One is I saw an agent the other day use the terminology. What was it? It was like, because they don't write the PDP, just like you're saying, but they will take the time. It was like, I think he said it was like PDP consultation. So it's like they'll consult with them, they'll recommend it, but then they won't write it. Which like if you're taking that much time to do that anyways, like you're reviewing the prescription, like why not just write like that? That blows my mind.
Yeah.
I would say get off the fence, right? Like if you're going to do that, just write it. If you don't want to write it, then don't even say, hey, I don't do this and don't do it. Refer it to someone else. But like you said before at the start of what you were saying there, if you don't write the PDP plan, I think statistically, tostada, did I say? Oh, dang it. I was nervous about that. By the way, do you not have tacos today?
I had a quesadilla. I bought the Office Cafe Rio, and I got this gigantic melted cheese smothered greasy quesadilla, and I couldn't wait. I just chomped it. I wanted it so bad. So I ate the whole thing.
Tostada, taco.
Pre-game Taco Tuesday.
All right, Myra. All right, I see you. But what you were saying before, the last statistic I saw quoted, and take this with a grain of salt, I don't know how accurate it is, but supposedly if you don't write that PDP plan when you have a Medicare supplement client, your chance of losing that Medicare supplement client to someone who is willing to write the PDP plan is significantly higher. It's like you could lose, I want to say it was like 20% of those who don't get the PDP plan could fall off. So 1 out of 5 clients, you could have an attrition rate. Whereas if you write the PDP plan, a Med Sup client isn't going anywhere. You're talking about probably less than a 5% fall off, which is insane when you look at attrition rates across any book of business in the insurance world, life insurance, final expense, P&C. I don't know any line of insurance that has an attrition rate that's above 95%. So, I think it's one of those things where you really have to look at it from the top down and realize, is it worth losing additional clients just because you're not going to take that time to write the plan? It doesn't make sense.
And that's what you said there is so accurate. Like I can tell you for me, when I was first starting out and I was just clawing for any client I could get, like nobody knows who I am. And all people that have worked as agents know that feeling. Like you don't have a brand, you don't have a company, nobody knows who you are, you don't have referrals, none of that stuff. That was overpowering. But the thing is, like I've gone into houses where, I'm able to write the PDP and that's my opening, and then I'm able to get the sup either right there on the spot or like 2 months down the road or something like that. There's been situations before where like I've written someone on a PDP and that's all I've written, knowing that I'll make pennies, but they couldn't pass underwriting at that point in time or something along those lines. I'll come back in a year and I'll write this up and I'll have their business for years and years after that. I've rolled out a lot of agents because they've given me that little crack in the armor to where I can get in and write the PDP first. So it's facts. It's true.
How often, so from your point of view, how many times are you sitting down with a prospect where you come to the realization that the Medicare agent that last worked with them didn't write the, like how common is it? Like how often are you seeing it where they didn't write the PDP?
It's not as common as you think. Oh, there he is.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The man.
That better be a taco in your mouth, good sir.
Do they serve tacos at this seminar?
Yeah, fish tacos.
Oh my goodness. Well,
looking good, man. I like your hat.
Yeah, looking
Thanks,
awesome.
buddy. Well, I was I'm really sorry. I was like, yeah, Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. I forgot Steven and Rob scheduled this seminar on Tuesday and Thursday of this week. So,
No worries.
but you know,
No worries.
we got 30 people showing up. So I gotta go sell some books, guys.
Yeah.
Christian, tell them, both of you guys, that's how we really make our money. It's the book sale.
It's those book royalties. It's the book
dude.
Royalties.
It's gonna pay for my island, dude.
Yeah. I think
my tax guy has a heart attack when I hand him my 1099 for my book royalties every year. Like I have 35 1099s, and here's the one from Amazon, and that's the one that's going to surprise you.
Oh yeah, that's
I think my book royalty from Amazon was like $500 or something this year. All I got. So I wrote mine and put it out like in October. So
yeah,
and it is an interesting thing. It was never to really make money. It was more to just try to have a resource to hand out as much as anything, and be one more piece of content out there, you know.
Hey, so
I'm sure it's the same thing for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Question for you, man. So I was just talking to Christian about this, and I'm curious to know from your point of view. So how many times are you running into a Medicare prospect where the last agent wrote the Medicare plan but didn't write the PDP plan?
Wrote the med sup, but no PDP.
Yeah.
And and they have a PDP, or they just don't even have one.
So maybe they don't have one and they need one, or maybe they have the wrong one, right? They should be on a different plan. How common do you see that?
I think that we used to see it a lot. I would say the mix of my business has changed in the last couple of years. So a lot of our business is T65 or their current clients that we're rewriting. Or it's MA to MA rewrites. I'm probably right now currently doing less new business underwritten med sup where they weren't my client before than we have most in most of our history. Just kind of a shift to that turning 65 market because, you know, even though a lot of people are marketing there, it's all new to them and it just seems to be working a little bit better for us. But, used to, we would see them a lot where they got the cheapest drug plan 15 years ago, and it was like a Humana $10 plan, and now it's, $70, and they don't even know because it's coming out of their Social Security check.
Yeah.
Same thing with the old AARP plan. Now they're on AARP preferred, and they take lisinopril, and it makes 0 sense for them. That's happening. That happens quite frequently.
Yeah, I see that too. Like when I first started, at least on this market, like Humana, there was like very few PDP options. Like there was the Humana Walmart plan, and then I see so many people that bought that 8, 9, 10 years ago, and like it went through that change where they rolled it into the other Humana plan. The premiums, like you said, like 60, 70, $80 a month, depending on the market. And they're like, I don't pay a premium. You're crazy. I don't pay a premium. Like, I guarantee you're paying a premium.
Yeah. I'm like, how much do you pay for that? Nothing. Bet you're paying. And then when you tell them you saved them money and you change them to like they were paying $0 for lisinopril with Humana Enhanced, and you change them to a $7 or $12 drug plan, $14 drug plan, and put $60 back in their check, but now they're paying $3 for lisinopril, and they're like mad at you because you just ruined everything. Like, I had a good thing going before you came along. Like, yeah, you were giving away like $57 extra a month for no reason. Yeah, that's true. But they don't understand it. They think Trump gave them the Social Security increase that amounted to the $60 extra I just put in there by saving them money on their drug plan.
They don't really realize it was Medicare Guru.
Yeah, they're like, man, that Social Security increase is nice. No, it was 1.3%. Well, 1.3% must be more than I thought it was.
So you guys, Tony Merwin's jumping in here now.
Ooh.
What?
Quads.
Here comes Tony. This is getting being interesting. Taco Tuesday. Tony,
Merwin,
the Merwinator.
Hey,
what up?
What's going on, man?
What's your name?
You guys hear me okay?
Kind of echoey.
Little echo.
Sorry.
What is your name?
Das Merwinator.
Tony.
I don't have
Tony.
my normal gear with me, so I'm having to work. I've stolen the Columbiana's workstation temporarily.
Did your
nice.
local computer shop ruin your computer too and get rid of your calendar like mine did?
No, not at all. They did find some compromising photos, though.
All of you, by the way, all of Tony,
all of me.
That's why Taco Tuesday is now sponsored by Computer Universe for free.
Yes, sir.
So Justin, I had a question for you, and Tony, this question could be for you too. So we're in Medicare Gurus. I think it's only right to ask, what is your guys' expectation for the mastermind coming up here in a couple weeks?
Ooh, good question.
Because I know Tony's going to be very heavily involved.
Wait.
Exploding.
Could Justin give us a break? If you don't know there's a mastermind happening, maybe you've been living under a rock because you're so scared of 2020. Maybe Justin could give us a little spiel here. What's the mastermind? For the
Medicare Gurus Mastermind has grown to be even more than I intended for it to be. We had an extra year of planning. Thank you, COVID and Chinese people. So we, and in the process, we were able to get quite a lot of traction, and I think that it's the deal with the Medicare Gurus Mastermind, and what a mastermind is that mastermind is a gathering of the minds. And so I didn't want to use any terminology related to a conference because I wasn't trying to have a conference. But now, I mean, arguably it's as big as a conference, so it is a kind of a conference. So it is going to be a collective of what I consider to be thought leaders and agency owners that is going to be better than what I think we've seen in other places in that regard. So like break down, like I've gone to a lot of conferences, right? And they all have something to get to provide. So, a lot of them are very hype and get me like amped up, and I want to go back and just, like beat up Conor McGregor or something. Like, I don't know what I want to do with all the energy I have, but I have it. The other one that I get is,
that was just the methamphetamines, Justin. That wasn't the conference.
All right. I didn't know what that was when they gave it to me, but I like it.
Some people call it a conference. Other people call it nightclubs.
Well, the other side of that coin that we would go to is there will be conferences that were pitch fest, and they're designed for. Actually, the first time I met Tony in person was at the MedSup conference, right? But there's a lot of FMO emphasis, and a lot of times the mid-level agency owner gets kind of left out in that crowd, and it's more like, there is an agent free day, but that's like vendor day, and they're just trying. It's like a sales fest of FMOs and stuff.
and there's not a lot of like legitimate conversation that happens. So what I was trying to accomplish was getting those mid-level producers to have their own event that is for us by us, FUBU. So, but it's for agents by agents, so FABA. But we have an agency, and almost every single person involved is an agency owner or has been, they have something in like to provide a value directly towards a mid-level agency owner. That's just who I'm looking for. I'm looking for, and mid-level is a diverse group. I would say people doing, 100,000 in premium or 75 to 100 Medicare Advantage enrollments a year, up to, groups that are doing, 5 million in premium a year, or, 2,000 Medicare Advantage plans a year. Anywhere in that kind of spectrum, that's who it's really intended for. The people that are trying to say, hey, we're at this level, how can we grow and scale? And the cool thing that really happens in those groups is, hopefully we do a good job. Hopefully Tony is going to do a good job with MC, and I'm going to, bring some value, and there's going to be speakers that bring a lot of value. But hopefully what happens is we have successfully collected a group of people where every person you meet there is going to have something to share. And if we all have an open mind that we're there to grow together and not just everyone's competition, we could all learn something from one another. Because for me, and I'm sure all you would agree, anytime we get together with other people, I learn as much from the people that I meet at the after party or the cocktail hour or whatever as I do from the stage, probably more so. And those relationships that you build could activate, something else, and so that's why it's not like a recruiting festival or anything, but that's not to say there's not partnerships that will form there. I mean, there are people that Tony will meet that want to work with Tony, that I will meet that want to work with me, Christian will meet that want to work with him, and any number of other people. And that's the cool thing, is I think just getting together, and even if you're not working with somebody, if you're learning from each other and becoming friends, and just putting faces to the names of all these friends that we've built on Facebook for the last couple of years, and even more so because of COVID. So that's what it is. And hey guys, I appreciate you letting me hop on, and I'm sorry that I'm not getting I'll be on here a lot longer, but if I don't get in here for the seminar, all the old people are going to be like stabbing holes in the table saying, where's my steak? So,
thank you for taking the time to come on. It was good to see you.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I got to take care of these plate lickers, guys. I'll see y'all later.
Done.
Bye.
So Tony, I wanted to kind of hear what you thought of what your perspective is on that question I asked for Justin, because you're going to be a big part of the conference, the mastermind. Like, you're going to be basically like, the MC, the one that's kind of kicking it off and everything like that. Like, what is your expectation going to be for it?
I think Justin kind of wrapped it up really well, but there was some things that maybe he didn't quite say perfectly. Number one, as I've seen this event develop, and I've been fortunate to see not only the rundown of the speakers, and I know a lot of the speakers, but I've seen the topics that they're speaking about. It is all education, 100% from cover to cover, bell to bell. Every day is loaded with education, except maybe some of the bad jokes I might throw out as MC. But it is truly an event, just like he said, where people can get together and mastermind and share what helps them be successful, not just nuts and bolts stuff of this or that and hype and come work with us recruiting stuff, which has been very typical of insurance conferences over the last 17 years, right? Particularly in the previous years, in the last, I would say maybe 2 to 3 years, we've seen an evolution in conferences and events that I think was spurred on by Cody. And now Justin's taken it even a step further and doing a really concentrated event on Medicare specifically, not just insurance as a whole, and how you can succeed. But one of the things that he said was that networking that happens afterwards, you put all these people in a room, you give them all this wonderful educational content, then you give them some time to talk about it amongst one another. And that's where the real value starts to really come up, and those organic relationships start to form, and friendships where we can all continue to elevate each other. Landon McCarter always says a phrase that he didn't coin, but he utilizes a lot. That's a rising tide raises all ships. And that's what this event is designed to do. right? It's not designed to recruit agents and convince them to do contracts with any of us. It's designed like, hey, we're all doing pretty well. We want to see everybody do pretty well. And here's some of the information that works for us that you can probably grab a hold of and use too. So it's definitely designed as for everybody to kind of get on that boat that is rising, right? And be part of that sensation, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Justin posted, I think it was just earlier today, maybe yesterday, but he was talking about, your network is your net worth, and maybe that's something that people don't like. Again, the first time I heard that, it was like, but another saying that it's really common that I think really drives the point home is you're the average of the 5 people closest to you. And I really believe that one strongly. So, when you hear people say something like your network is your net worth, well, the 5 people closest to you, if they're all, not producing a lot, then you're probably not producing a lot.
You're definitely not getting any good ideas from them.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the flip side of that is if the 5 agents closest to you are all producing a significant amount of business, most likely you're going to be producing a significant amount of business too. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of networking and these conferences. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all of that stuff is very contagious, right? Negativity breeds negativity, positivity breeds positivity, right? If you hang around people that are on a path to success and they're positive about it and they have that winning mentality, it's going to rub off on you. If you're paying attention in the least, it's going to rub off on you. You can't help it.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of is your inner circle pushing you up or is it dragging you down?
Correct.
Like for me, and I think it's such a powerful thing to think about because I would say our business had our best year in 2020. Despite COVID, it was our best year ever in a multitude of different ways. And I directly tie that to forming a lot of relationships with other people in the industry. Because before that, the inner circle in terms of people I knew in the industry were here in Utah. Very few people outside of Utah. And a lot of the people that I knew, there was a couple people I knew that were in the business, but no one that was outside of we have a contract here or contract there, or this person is a contact I know at an insurance company or something like that. The amount of people I've been able to get to know, like Glenn and Tony, like you and like Justin, just because of these groups has, in my opinion, I think played a huge role in kind of helping me do what I've been able to do with our company. And I'm sure other people in the groups have been able to speak on that.
Absolutely. It puts just a little bit of gasoline on your fire. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I know one topic me and Glenn were kind of batting back and forth to talk about with Justin, but Tony, I think you're just as good, if not better, of a person to talk to about it. Cause I think Tony's like the
Walmart version of Justin Brock.
The Walmart version.
I'm not sure I like that.
No, but we were batting this idea back and forth about discussing have the Facebook groups and the evolution of social media in our industry, has it been a good thing for the industry or a bad thing? I would put that in the good category, but Tony, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it because you've seen it
before. It's all in how you use it. It's all in how you use it as the user, right? We're all users of the content that some of us creating and some of us just watching and tapping into and learning. It's all in how you use them. And if all you do is sit there and scan through these Facebook groups and read all this wonderful material that we put out, and you're like, well, that's wonderful. And then your day's gone and you haven't done anything with the knowledge. You haven't actually even tried to, be productive in your day. Then you're reading it for entertainment purposes. And obviously it's bad, right? So it's on the user to dictate that. Obviously the material that you put out, that I put out, that Justin puts out, that Glenn puts out, that people like Eric Fierro and Cody put out, it's extremely high value content, but ultimately, which is good for the industry, but ultimately it's up to you as the user to decide whether it's good or bad for you, right? Are you using it properly? And ultimately, it's one thing to get knowledge, but the second part of it is, are you applying it? Are you putting it into your business and trying to practice it to improve yourself? Or again, are you just reading the stuff for entertainment purposes? If you're just there for entertainment, go find something else to do. That's all you're going to do is dilute the group for one, especially if you're participating on an entertainment level. But ultimately, you're just not doing yourself any kind of a service whatsoever. And it is easy to get lost in some of these groups because there's a ton of information out there, and you can get in there and start scrolling and reading, and next thing you know, you're down a rabbit hole and you spent the last 2 hours. That's great. You're probably getting a lot of valuable info out of it. But again, a little bit of time management there. Make sure that you're tapped into that stuff when the time is right for you so that you can then take it back the next day and apply it. You have to learn to drink your cup, right? If you're going to be a good student, you show up with an empty cup, you take it home, you drink it, and then come back and refill it again. But so many people will show up for this type of material. They'll let them fill, but then they never actually take the time to drink it.
Tony, do you have some hard feelings still about the fantasy draft we did? And
no, I crushed y'all. Why would I have hard feelings? I absolutely destroyed it.
He won. The vote said he won. No, even if Glenn and I don't like it. Even if Glenn and I don't like it.
There will be a second one of those, by the way. If you guys saw that, we did the three of us did a fantasy carrier draft where we basically built our portfolios in the senior insurance market. I think mine was the most rounded. That's my personal opinion. I'm going to leave it at that. Tony,
you finished really strong. You finished strong because Christian and I both dropped the ball on a couple of carriers right at the end that we just completely overlooked, and you immediately picked it up and grabbed it. So I would say you were a strong finisher in that, but ultimately, United Healthcare is going to win.
I think I
could probably just run with that one.
All right. I think if you look at my portfolio, I think it had the most diversity on the board in terms of having strong Medicare Advantage carriers and strong Medicare supplement carriers and strong ancillary carriers. Like, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I was feeling my portfolio a little bit.
Watch, if you guys haven't seen that, I thought that was a great episode. Check that out. It's on Christian's YouTube.
It was a heck of a lot of fun too.
It was. So we'll have to do that again soon. But to go back to your question, Christian, about, social media and the Facebook groups and how has this affected the insurance industry? And I think there's a lot of pros and cons to kind of the whole scenario. I think the plus side or the good side is some of this additional transparency that all these agents, and I'm so jealous of some of these new agents who come in and like all of this information is right there. When I got in the industry, almost 10 years ago, there was not this type of transparency or this amount of information that's available. And it's everywhere, I feel like. I mean, there's so many different Facebook groups, websites, people on YouTube, like your channel, Christian, and, Justin Brock has a channel, and I think Eric has a channel, like all these people that we talked about. So that's a really positive thing. And I think there's a lot you can take from it. But the negative side is also the fact that, and this kind of goes back to when we were talking to Scotty a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how, people love to just jump on here and basically create drama that's fictionalized. They're saying stuff that's not entirely true. They're going after an upline. They're going after another agent. And I think a lot of that can be distracting. And it's kind of like what you said, Tony. I mean, like if you end up spending half your day in a Facebook thread and you're arguing with someone over like a moot point, right? That has like no value. Then we're at the point where like, this is a negative thing. And so you see a lot of kind of both. You'll see like a lot of value, a lot of good information, a lot of transparency, but then you'll also see the other side of it. You'll see people misleading people because it's financially motivating for them. Like we talked about before Tony and Justin got on, there's people who are going to say things that they're just trying to make themselves money. I see it every freaking day, guys. So you got to be careful about that. You got to be careful about people who are just trying to create drama and there's not really any value to what they're sharing. And you also have to make sure that they are an actual expert in what they're claiming to be. And when the pandemic started, I'll never forget this, and I won't let anybody forget this, because us three specifically, Christian and Tony and myself, we have been a huge proponent of telesales to the point where we may have even offended someone.
Tony more than any of us.
And when the pandemic started, everybody became telesales experts overnight. And I just remember being like, bullshit, specifically on a few agents where I'm like, I know for a fact you haven't been selling over the phone. And then within a month of the pandemic, they claimed that they were like telesales extraordinaire. And I'm just like, that's just not true. So that's my long-winded answer to that question.
Yeah. People will always spring on a challenge, right? They'll see because with every challenge, there's always an opportunity, so it's just how do you take advantage of it? You'll certainly see people that have nefarious motives in some form. They'll use that opportunity to their advantage.
So
that's true in any business.
I know, and I think there's good and bad. To give you my answer to my own question, I think there's good and bad on what I've observed over the last couple of years being a part of the groups. And
more good, or is it more bad? Is it more good or is it more bad?
I think it's more good. I think the good is obviously like what you guys said. I think you guys both very articulately put out there what is the good about it, and that is, the amount of value that's at the agent's fingertips is absurd compared to the way it was, Glenn, when you got into business, Tony, when you got into business, and even when I got into business, even though I got in later on than you guys did, it just didn't exist like that. And now, you can find almost any conversation in a big group like this group, Medicare Gurus, that we're in right now. Or even in my group, my group's been around a year or so, and you can probably find a lot of the material as well. And so I think that is good, the ability to share the information. I think where it's bad is like I understand where someone like Scotty was coming from when he comes on here and he talks about how, like I know for a fact that this gets under some people's skin, that like somebody that has maybe an office of 50 agents, let's say, they'll come in and they'll post, we did, I don't know, 500 apps today or 300 apps today or something like that. They'll just put up some ridiculous number, and the agents are kind of comparing themselves to that, not really taking the time to think that, hey, this is a group of people, not just one person that's writing all this business. Like I was talking to an agent that works with us here in Utah literally a couple of weeks ago, and she was asking me about somebody that posts a lot in the groups about, and then they're like, I feel like when I read those posts, she was like, I feel like when I read those posts that I suck. And she's a really good agent, like a really, really, really good agent. She's like one of the best ACA agents I know. And she's a very good Medicare agent too. She has Medicare with us. And I took the time to explain to her, I was like, this person is a great producer. I was like, but you got to keep in mind, it's an office of agents. It's not just one person. So like sometimes when they go and post those numbers, it's for a group of people, not just one specific person. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, so I think that can be kind of demoralizing to a new agent that's trying to figure out like, what should my targets be? And then they're trying to hit targets that a whole group or an office is hitting together, So I think there's
or the 10-year veteran agent has done, and you're in your first 6 months trying to duplicate that. It's not going to happen. My wife I love that you pointed that out, because my wife's had the same issue, right? And I see her just beating herself up. She's like, I'm terrible. I'm like, you've already written 100 apps. This is your first, you just got licensed in May.
Fantastic.
Like
Fantastic.
Believe me, you're killing it. You're doing great. It's like, you don't have to compare yourself to some of these people that are writing 500 apps a year. It's like, I can understand that's not all organic new business. There's some replacement business going on in there too. But, but she sees that, she compares herself with people that have been out there producing for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and they have a huge book of business that they're managing. And, and they'll throw out, I'm not a huge fan of throwing out production numbers like that for that reason, but I understand that's sales and it's part of what we do in sales. You throw out your accolades and so forth. But yeah, it does make it a challenge for new people, because then they start to doubt themselves, even though they're on a great path and they're doing very, very well.
That replacement business too, like there's an agency that will be on leaderboards for a lot of the carriers. Like I know they do a lot of business, but I got kind of a peek behind the scenes working with them. And I found out that depending on the day, the week, or the month, I mean, almost half of their business could be replacement business, where again, they're trying to save their clients money, ethically replacing their own business. But again, from the outsider's perspective, you look at this leaderboard and you think, oh my gosh, here's someone who's just crushing it. But then the reality is, taking
they're just on the hamster wheel.
Yeah. I mean, taking a client that's already on your book, and you don't have to get any special information. You have a 5 or 10 minute conversation and you roll them. That is a completely different animal than trying to actually acquire a new client. And so I think that's part of the negativity of the social media is, not even necessarily that someone's lying, but it just could be misleading,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
100%.
there's not all the info there. Like early on in the infancy stage, if you will, of six-figure Medicare Agent, I got into posting numbers like that a lot, and I stopped doing it. I've really tried to back away from it because I feel like it doesn't. I've talked to some agents, like that will be like, oh, it motivates me and stuff like that. I think for the grand majority of people, I just don't think it brings anything. So I've kind of backed away from it for that reason. And then there's people that will come in and be like, oh, my office wrote 3,000 apps during AEP or something like that. They're like, we wrote, 10 million in premium or something like that. I'm just like, it starts to get ridiculous. And I'm just like, I just don't feel that it's really a benefit to the community. And there's a lot of new agents in there that are looking for guidance and like Grace, the like Grace that is destroying it, doing phenomenal. Like Rebecca Davis just commented, she said she'd take her if you don't want her, Tony. But my point is any seasoned agent knows that she's crushing it, but she doesn't realize that she's crushing it because she's seeing all these ridiculous posts and not putting them into context.
Yeah. So it doesn't benefit the people that you want it to benefit in a positive light, right? The people the people that some of those production numbers or whatever that get it and that appreciate it are the same people that are doing those kind of numbers already.
Right.
So they're like, yeah, they know what it feels like to go out and write, 200,000 in premium or go out and write 500 MA apps in a season, right? So they're kudos, they get it. And great. But the people that either A, don't believe you, they think he's full of crap, or B, or the newer agent, we're like, wow, I suck, right? It doesn't have a positive impact on the people that you truly want it to impact the most. That's my opinion.
I do love, one of my favorites is when someone does post and I, again, being around as long as I have, I understand more than I think the average agent. But when someone does post numbers and then someone comments, you're like, that's bullshit. There's no way you wrote that much. I know you're lying. And everyone's like, no, actually 20 apps in a day isn't crazy. Like if you know what you're doing, maybe some of it's follow-up, maybe some of it's rewrites, it's possible to do 20 apps in a day, or whatever the number is. But I think there's a lot of limiting beliefs out there too. That's always fun to see. Like, oh, you can only write 2 apps a day. Everyone knows that,
Yeah. I mean, but overall, to get back to the actual question, for me personally, I think there's way more positive than negative, because I think it just kind of pulls the blanket off of everything and kind of just unveils a lot of the stuff that might have been hidden before, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, at first I didn't even think about it from the transparency aspect of it. And I appreciate you pointing that out because that is absolutely spot on. There's a ton of agents in there that lay it down exactly like it is, pull off the hood, so to speak, the man behind the curtain. But then also that it's that organic relationship building that it creates. Again, just to get back to that, right? I didn't know who the hell you guys were 2 years ago before and I owe a ton of thank you and credit to Joe Trottola, who runs the Medicare Mentors group. I've known Joe for 10 years and he reached out to me one day. Was like, hey man, you got to get in some of these Facebook groups. There's a ton of value in there. I know you have a ton of value to give. I think you could help a lot of us and you could help yourself. And he invited me to Gurus. And the next thing you know, he started Mentors. And then I met Christian. I jumped into his group and so forth. So again, it's creating a tighter, and Joe Campert and I were actually talking about this, how all of this stuff is kind of cultivating into this web of people that are moving, that are tying together and moving up, right? Through a transparent share of information and assistance with one another.
Yeah. Yep. I think you'll find that there'll probably be an opposite web of people who don't want to participate in the groups, who don't want to recommend, someone.
They're on Reddit.
Yeah, exactly. They're anonymous, right? Yeah, they're and that's one thing too that I think is funny is everyone thinks oh man, these few Facebook groups are the entire community. like if you look at the actual community as a whole,
Very
there's
it's
a ton of
small
agents.
percentage.
Tiny fraction.
Yeah, it's a
itsy
sliver.
bitsy piece.
It's a sliver in these Facebook groups compared to the entire, Medicare or senior insurance agent. Like there's a ton of agents who aren't on there. I mean, there's some really great agency owners that I do business with. And it's just funny because like they're big producers, but they are not involved in any of these groups. And so I think sometimes that will kind of warp people's vision too. Like this is the Medicare space. Like
it's the same 100 jerks.
Yeah.
They're writing all the business. No, we're just the ones that like to be more social and share and connect with people. But yeah, I mean, there are tons of great producers in my downline and in my group that they could care less. I can't even get them on LinkedIn, much less on Facebook.
Yep. 100%.
And they're too busy writing business, Faye. I'm not going to complain.
There's an agent in Utah that has, he used to be the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Utah market manager when my dad was building his business. He's been around a while. He's probably in his 50s now. And he went independent and he had a ton of contacts being a market manager. Long story short, almost every credit union we have in the area sends him referrals. Like he just has all these connections. He's got a monster business. Like he's probably got 5,000 clients or something like that. If I had to think, maybe 5 to 6 or 7, he's always number one for every single MedSup carrier. So if Christian comes in at number 3, let's say 1 month, he's always 2 spots ahead of me every single time. I cannot beat him. And so, but I've never seen him in a group. You know what I mean? Like I know him personally. Like I about 3 months ago, I was going to dinner somewhere and I bumped into him in the and he's known me since I was a little kid because he knew my dad. Like he bumped into me in the parking lot and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, I got this Facebook group going on. He's like, "A what?" Oh, he's one of the best agents I've ever met in my entire life. Like he's just a monster. And he's like, he's creating an FMO now here locally and everything like that. But like, he's not even aware of it. Like, he's just like, doesn't even think about it.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's such a small percentage. Like how many agents do you think are out there, Tony, that are contracted in the Medicare space? 100,000, 200,000?
No, not that many. I used to know this number pretty well. I remember Mutual Omaha at one point clouding that they had 50,000 agents under contract. That's certainly not all of them still.
I think it's less than, I think at most it'd be 100K. I think it's less than 100,000 contracted Medicare agents would be my guess.
That would make sense. 100,000, maybe like 80,000, 90,000, something like that. Like, yeah. And if you put together, I was talking to Joanna about this the other day too, and she pointed it out to me. She's like, if you put all the agents together in all these groups, and let's be real, probably 2/3 of every group is in all the other groups too, and she's like, so we make up such a fraction of the available community. It's interesting, but It's also interesting that with such a small fraction of the community, what an impact they can make.
Absolutely. What a huge impact we can make. 100%.
I think I want to say the last number I saw, I want to say was like 70. I don't know. Again, I don't know how recent that number was, but I want to say it was like 70,000 Medicare agents. But
I bet it's quite a bit higher than Medicare. I don't know, but I bet it's still quite a bit higher than that.
I hope it's large. I hope it's bigger than 100K.
I wanted to read some comments, guys, because there's been some interesting comments that have been sliding into the comment section. So Myra said, yes, I agree. So many agents are not in the groups. And Rebecca Davis said Integrity has like 300,000 agents. I've heard that before.
That's a lot. It's definitely big. And I can say this for a fact, because I downloaded a recruiting list of life and health agents in Illinois, which turned out to be a waste of our marketers' time. I got it through Discovery Data, but there was over 30,000 agents on that list alone that had an active health license, just in Illinois. It's one state. Now, they're not also on Medicare. There's a lot of group, and that's why it turned out to be a waste of time, because Illinois, you can't get very good data on recruiting list whatsoever. They don't share appointments. They don't publicize any of that stuff. So all you can do is pull a list of like life or health agents or whatever. So you end up with a ton of group agents, you end up with a ton of captive agents, right? And it's hard to differentiate that other than just picking up the phone and calling each one of those persons. So ended up wasting, most of our marketers' time. We're like, yeah, we'll find a better way to attack Illinois. But that list was over 30,000 just in that one state.
How many active life health licenses do you think there are nationwide?
Well, that's an interesting question, because there's a lot of agents that have a license, but they might not be appointed with anything. Like maybe they're just inactive. Like my wife has a license. She's not contracted for anything. There you go. My mom has a license. How many of those are there out there?
A lot.
There's definitely a lot. I mean, there are a lot. I don't have the list in front of me right now, but there's a huge list that you can pull of Texas agents that are Medicare certified. And a ton of those people have 0 appointments. I don't know why they go to the trouble of certifying for Medicare, but they could do it for any number of reasons. Maybe they're a marketer that has a license and they decided to go through that process so they can be better at what they do. Maybe they work for a company and they just, wanted to learn that and sharpen their skill set as well. It could be that they're maintaining that license for a later date that they're going to utilize for sales. And right now they're doing something else. There's, a whole bunch of reasons why someone would end up having a license for some strange reason. And then at some point, you have guys that have been in the business so long, they don't have to do CE anymore, and their license just stays active.
I wish
but
that
they're
was
not even
me.
selling. I mean, I've definitely called guys that their license shows active, but they've been dead for a while.
This kind of ties.
Jeez, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
His wife answers the phone and like, he's dead. He doesn't sell insurance anymore.
His license still shows active.
His license still shows up as active.
It's like Mutual of Omaha just got an app last week from your husband's writing number. What are you talking about?
So guys, one last question I wanted to throw out there was Isaac Lind asked, what are our thoughts on boneless wings?
Oh, chicken nuggets? No thanks.
They're chicken tenders. They're not boneless wings. They're chicken tenders.
Yeah, that's my thoughts as well. Not that I don't like chicken tenders. I love me some chicken tenders, but
I've never understood why the drumstick falls in the wing category. That's the part that still confuses me.
But when we're to really fast kind of go back to when we're talking about production and like how some people are posting their production. And I mean, isn't the average Medicare agent, if you were to take the average, isn't it like 5 apps a year? Isn't that what the average Medicare
That's what I've
agent?
always been told by our FMO, is that's like around the average for the year, not just during AEP,
That's
but
correct.
for the year.
That's
Less
correct.
than one a month.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the average producer sucks and only knows how to write 5 apps. That's people that are in other lines of business that stumble into 5 Medicare apps and they just don't want to lose the business, right? I mean, I work with I can probably think of about 15 to 20 PNC agencies that I work with where PNC is their primary line, but their clients are getting older and they're like, well, I don't mind if it's only 5 apps. I mean, it's only 5 apps, but it's still money in my pocket. It's still a relationship that I can take care of this client for. And I love those guys, because they don't bug you very much.
Yep.
They write their 5 apps. They'll call you every once in a while and be like, hey, I just, make sure this application is still up to date because I got one to write again finally. They're super cool dudes. But yeah, that's a big part of what drags that number down. There are certainly non-producers as well, or people that get licensed and end up not making it in the business or quitting for whatever reason. But that average is brought down mainly from people that are in other lines as their primary, and Medicare is just a secondary or even tertiary line. They just write a handful of apps every year.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably whether it's 100,000 or 200,000 agents, there's probably only 10% of those that are actually out writing business every single day or every single week. It's such
absolutely Pareto principle, 100%.
So I guess that's the one thing that bothers me the most is like, I just look at, there's such an abundance of opportunity, and yet the community doesn't always reflect that. You see when someone does post and they're talking about their apps that they've written or so-and-so, I'm going to report this agent, I'm trying to take him down. Like there is so much business for all of us. Like I love the unity when we do come together and we can, even if we're not necessarily working together, I think there's still a way that we can work together to like you talked about earlier, Tony, a rising tide raises all ships. I think we can better the community, and it will help all of us, even if it's not a direct relationship with another agent. And
Absolutely.
I hope more agents come on board with that, because again, as a new agent myself coming into the industry, I thought everyone was my enemy. I'm like, Christian, don't take my clients. Bah, 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 bah. I'm like, so it's definitely, it's just a mindset thing, you guys. And I think if the more
mindset of philosophy.
Yeah, the more people that come on board with that, the better, I think. I'm dying to know the stat now. I want to know exactly how many agents there are.
I'd love to know that too. I was talking to kind of piggyback on what you said, Glenn, about we're really not in direct competition with each other, because I believe that. I did an interview with Galen early last year as my first instance I ever met her. And she very adamantly and articulately pointed out, she's like, I've known Justin Brock and Eric Fierro for years. And she's like, I've never ran into one of their clients. I've never ran into a Christian Brindle client. It hasn't happened, and that just talks about, even agencies that are humongous agencies that, make millions of dollars a year in production. They're just such a drop in the pot of what's out there. There's enough for everybody. I told a new agent recently that we brought on board, and I was training her, and she was like, how do I beat other agents? And I told her, I was like, listen, I think that's the wrong attitude. I'm like, cause that's how I looked at things when I started. I was like, I think you need to not really look at other agents as your competition. You should be looking at eHealth as your competition, as Walmart as your competition, as Amazon as your competition. If they jump in, I'm like, you should be looking at these big corporations as your competition, because the mom and pop agency, like, little Johnny Fisher around the corner, in his office, is not going to put you out of business. eHealth can put you out of business if they got big enough.
Yeah. The other agents that are independent brokers like you, that's your brotherhood. That's the guys that you need to support and treat in good spirit and good faith, right? Don't downplay them. Don't down talk them, help them, have a camaraderie with them and so forth. 100%. And that's how we can fight these other big corporations. But, something in this, when Glenn was talking about, acting in the good of the community, and I'm not trying to tout here, but this is the reason why we have an open release policy at PSM, is because not having one is not conducive to the spirit of the community and insurance. It doesn't help anybody, right? Ultimately, our goal as product distributors, as an FMO or NMO, is to get that company, Mutual, Omaha, Aetna, whoever it is, as much business as we can. That's really our job, right? And our function. Right. So if I hold an agent captive and prevent him from releasing him, well, he's not going to write business anyway. So now not only am I screwing that agent and developing a bad name for myself possibly, but I'm also doing a disservice to the carrier that hired me and gave me the NMO contract to produce business for him, right? It's all just a negative. So
and the Medicare,
we embrace that for that specific reason, that knowing that overall it's for the good of the community.
And the Medicare beneficiaries that could have been.
And they correct.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it was within the last year or so where like you really, the more you zoom out, like the better picture you get when you can really look at the entire organization from top to bottom. Like the more beneficiaries that get helped, the better it is for them, the better it is for the agent, the better it is for the agency, better it is for the IMO, the better it is for the carrier. Like it really is this giant organism. Essentially, we're all connected at some level. And so, yeah, I think once you can really see it that way, I feel like it really changes how you do business. I really do.
Well said.
I agree. I think that was very well
high level stuff right there.
Like I when I was a new agent, I would shit on other agents. I would badmouth other agents to try to steal clients from them. Like I would go in and be like, if it was an agent I knew, I'd be like, oh, you don't want to work with that agent. He's fat or something. Like there was one agent in particular. And I feel bad about this. It's a hysterical story, but I feel bad about this to this day. There's this agent that was in Utah, and he would go to all the meetings, right, for all the carriers and things like that. And the dude was gigantic. Like he was like 400 pounds, like legit, like big boy, and he wasn't very gracious. at the meetings and stuff. Like he would stand up and challenge the presenter, interrupt the whole, presentation and be like, that's not how it works. That's not how your scope of appointment works, or that's not CMS compliant, or some stupid thing, and just like keep us all from being able to go home. So I didn't like this guy. Well, there was a summer where I kept running into his clients over and over and over and over and over. And I would just roast this guy in people's houses. And there was one client in particular. He said he comes into the house and he sits in one of his chairs and breaks one of the legs, one of his chairs. And the agent, and he was just like, I don't want to do business with this agent. He just rubbed me the wrong way. He broke my chair. He can barely fit through my door. Like the client was totally turned off by him. And I just came in and I just poured gasoline all over that fire. I'm like, yeah, screw that guy. He's a big fat jerk. And I was a new agent, right? But that was the wrong approach, like that was the wrong way for me to go about it. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, that was how I conducted myself as a new agent. And I formed a lot of enemies very quickly. It's just not the right way to do business. That's what I did.
I used to have a marketer that would do that. Agents would call him and go, hey, well, I was talking to this other FMO group. He's like, oh, you don't want to work with them. They support the Taliban. You don't want to work with them. He would say goofy stuff like, he would always say something that was so obviously exaggerated that it was a joke, but he would use stuff like that to kind of disparage other groups a little bit in some form. Like, no, work with us.
Well, I think you'll see it in the agency level too. I think that's where it's most interesting. Is I've seen agencies and worked in agencies where it's a collective community where everyone's trying to help each other inside the agency. Oh, hey, I did talk to this person a couple weeks ago, but you go ahead and write her. I'm already busy with someone else anyways. And then I've seen it the other way where it's essentially this, free for all where people are willing to eat each other. They're talking shit about each other. They're taking business. They're taking leads from each other. And yeah, it's just such a night and day difference. And again, it's kind of the same way I think the community, it can go either way.
Yeah, those same two cultures exist in the marketing side of it too.
Oh yeah.
There are marketers that have the mentality that they own their agent, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And and I'm talking within the same marketing group. I'm not talking from one to the next, right? No. Where you get a little pissed off because maybe somebody over there recruited one of your agents. That's just the nature of the business. But I'm talking in the same office space, marketers fighting and being argumentative instead of just doing what's in the best interest of that agent and taking good care of them properly. And I'm fortunate, thankfully, to the guidance of the principals at PSM, that we don't have that culture. All of our marketers, they treat each other's agents just like it is like one of their guys that they work with, right? So if Jeff is out and maybe he's on vacation or sick or whatever, and one of his agents calls in, one of the marketers picks that guy up and takes care of him just like he's Jeff's agent. And if it results in a new contract, Jeff gets that contract. That new marketer doesn't keep and go, oh, well, he called and I helped him on this one. You were out. No, they're like, hey, man, so-and-so called while you were out. One of the Emeritus contract or whatever it was, I sent it all to him and worked with IT to make sure it was coded to you. You're all good. So that's the culture that we have. And I'm super blessed that we have that culture. Love it. And it's helped us thrive. But I've seen other groups where they fight amongst themselves internally over business. And it's childish, truthfully.
We talked about it in depth last week, marketer roulette. Some of these organizations will get a bad name when it's really just a bad marketer. That's kind of this mid-level employee that can really, make or break an agent or an agency because their marketer is, doing things that upset them. So yeah. Yeah.
He has, ulterior nefarious motives, or just a lack of empathy and compassion and care to service.
100%.
If we're going to generate business, we have to learn to service it. You guys know that, and that's the same on the marketing side of it as well.
I think, it's interesting too, because like sometimes a marketer has a certain way of doing things that might not be like reflective of what the FMO might normally do. Another time too, it's just like the marketer's like maybe a newer marketer, and they still don't really know like the tricks of the trade. I told that story last week where there was that marketer that we got assigned a new marketer with Agent Pipeline years ago. And he was calling us on like October 5th or October 6th or something like that, trying to get us to sign up for this, new med sub company. And it was some company I've never heard of. I still haven't heard of them. I don't even know if they're still around. But like he called like 4 or 5 times in that week. And back then I wasn't dealing with any of this stuff. I was just selling. My dad was, the man with the he was doing all the recruiting and everything. And my dad like ripped him a new asshole a little bit. He was like, dude, it's freaking AEP. Like, are you stupid? Like my dad's not a very nice person with that kind of stuff. Like my dad's pretty, he'll let it all hang out a little bit. And, but like he complained about that marketer to Agent Pipeline. They gave us a new marketer. The new marketer was awesome, just completely different. So I think it's very telling, one marketer to the other, even in the same group.
Absolutely. One of the disadvantages of being a new marketer sometimes is your lack of knowledge, just like a new agent, right? We're all guilty of this as new people in any skill set or business. And then Nate Offer pointed this out through a demonstration at 8%. Actually, it was the after event, the SWAT event, of how if we're asked a question and we don't know the answer, our human nature will pretend to know the answer and we'll just make some stuff up. And we may actually believe that is the right answer, but we don't know we're good at because we don't want to say, I don't know.
Never.
We'll just make something up. Right?
Never.
Which way is the store? Oh, it's over there.
Yeah. You don't
That
know where
way.
it's at all. But if you have someone that's confident enough in themselves to say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And I will, and they follow through with that. That's when you got somebody good on your crew that has your best interest, because they're willing to throw themselves in the bus the slightest and go, I don't have that answer right now, but I will find it. Not just circle back, they'll actually do it.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, we're past our typical hour mark, you guys. So I want to kind of wrap things up. And any final thoughts, Christian and Tony? I don't know who wants to go first, but would love to hear them. And until next Tuesday, you guys.
So
Thanks for letting me hop on. If there's any, if you're thinking about wanting to go to Memphis for Medicare Masterminds and you're listening to this, I don't know if there's any tickets left, but contact Justin Brock or Steve Martinez in the Medicare Gurus group. There have been a few late minute cancellations of people that can't make it for whatever reasons. So there may be a couple of straggling tickets still out there.
yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the people that are going to be there. Like Tony, I'm looking forward to spending some time with you, getting to meet you in person, like Joanna, Galen, a bunch of people, I'm just really looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. And I hope to see a lot of you guys there. I hope to see a bunch of you there. Maybe people that I've gotten to know in the groups and even people I haven't gotten to know in the groups. I'm just, looking forward to connecting with everybody and spending some quality time. And my final thoughts are, Tony, thank you for coming on, because it was kind of like a last second spur of the moment thing. When Justin couldn't come on, I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if Tony could come on? It was like, and yeah, I mean, we didn't plan it out with you or anything. So I appreciate you coming on at just such a last minute thing. So thank you.
No problem at all, man. Grace is out of town. She's hanging out in Columbia, enjoying some of the fruits of her labor and visiting with her family. So hence I'm at her workstation, because all my gear is back at my office at the new studio. Had you given me a little more heads up, you would have seen all the blue light studio special. But here I am. But I love to participate in this stuff, so I'm always happy to help anytime.
Tony, do I need to send you Uber Eats then to keep
No,
you?
I have some Kung Pao chicken left over from yesterday's Uber Eats.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yesterday's Uber Eats.
Yeah, Tony likes his Kung Pao spicy.
There you go.
Tony, if you're going to be getting into a lot of Uber Eats, you need that Uber credit card. It's like 4 or 5% cash back on Uber Eats. Just so you know, just shameless plug. They're a sponsor.
There you go.
Right on.
Well, final thoughts. It was a great conversation, kind of rambunctious today with some of the different things that we talked about. But if you guys enjoyed today's episode, we have all of our previous episodes, including the fantasy draft episode, like I talked about before. The videos are uploaded on the Six Figure Medicare Agent YouTube channel. The audio can be found on any of our major podcasting platforms like iTunes, Spotify. So definitely check those out. Leave us a review if you enjoyed the conversation and you wanted to recommend us to another agent. We would love that. But yeah, until next time, you guys, we will see you next Tuesday.
Adios, everybody.